Greetings. You have landed at Words Move Poetry, and I am Ruby Body. It's such a pleasure for me to be meeting with you again this Sunday to talk poetry, the Sunday after Christmas Day. Hope you had a happy Christmas and hope you were able to enjoy your family and friends. We will be continuing in our trek across the Caribbean while celebrating this December month, the month of Christmas. Today we will go to the island of Cuba. And I chose Cuba after Jamaica because, of course, of its proximity to Jamaica, and also because there is a certain quality of joyfulness that the Cuban people exude. It is something that comes out in their art. And when you think about Cuban artists, Celia Cruz and some of their poets and so on, you get that feeling of joyfulness, but you also get that feeling of earthiness, of substance. So today it is my pleasure to talk about emotional intelligence and the aesthetic of the Cuban poet. And in doing so, I will feature Jose Marti, who is well regarded as the father of Cuban poetry. I said human there. Maybe that tells you how I feel about his poetry, but I meant Cuban poetry, the father of Cuban poetry, a national icon, national hero, Marti. And I wanted also to feature a contemporary Cuban poet, Gonzalez Pacheco, who is also a well-celebrated, though contemporary, poet. So to start with the idea of emotional intelligence, it is a concept that has gained popularity and acceptance more and more since the 1990s, since it was coined, the question of emotional intelligence. But of course, a term, the fact that the term was coined in the 90s doesn't mean that it did not exist before then, that the fact of emotional intelligence did not exist. We just found a name for it in the 90s, and it has become, as I said, more and more popular, and it has taken its place among the other types of intelligence that we have celebrated for centuries, financial intelligence and so forth. So the idea of emotional intelligence, but what is intelligence? At its most basic, there is a definition which suggests that it is the capacity, the ability to acquire and to integrate knowledge, ideas. But the word acquire makes me uncomfortable. It discomforts me because it suggests a question of purchasing, of buying. And I would want to suggest that in many ways, intelligence is not something that can be purchased, that can be received through our own means, through our own voluntary actions. I would suggest that it is more in the form of a gift. We receive it. Intelligence, we receive it. So I would be more happy to consider a definition of intelligence which says emotional intelligence, which suggests that it is the ability to receive information that allows us to become more attuned, to become more understanding of our feelings, of our emotions. And that is the quality, I would suggest, that comes out in much of the artistry that is produced by Cuban creatives. Jose Marti himself was born into a poor family, immigrants from Spain at that time. Cuba was colonized by Spain, and Marti was born of Cuban immigrants, and of Spanish immigrants rather. He was Cuban, born of Spanish immigrants. Marti rose, of course, to become a worldwide figure, and anyone who hears the melody to Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, it is Jose Marti. A poem that he wrote was adapted to create the song that we know as Guantanamera. His poem was called A Sincere Man I Am, and I'll just read the first few lines of it. Remember, I told you that he was born into very ordinary circumstances in rural Cuba. And this is what he wrote in, I believe it was his last book, Versos Sencillas. In Versos Sencillos, one of his last books before he died. Died a young man, 42 years old, born in 1853. So if we can just think about some of the things that happened around that time in 1853, and we think about Jose Marti. A sincere man am I from the land where palm trees grow, and I want, before I die, my soul's verses to bestow. I'm a traveler to all parts, and a newcomer to none. I am art among the arts. With the mountains, I am one, and it goes on. But that opening, those opening lines are indicative of the soul. He uses the word soul, indicative of his knowledge that there was an intelligence larger than he. And he accepted this. And this inspired him, even though he was an activist, he was a poet, he was a publisher, he was multifaceted. But when you read his poetry, when you read this particular poem, A Sincere Man Am I, you would see that he understood that life is a gift, that intelligence is a gift, that some of the most valuable things are gifted. There is nothing in our means, in our circumstances, that make us deserving of that. And it is such a beautiful quality, a quality of thankfulness. The other poet is Jorge Enrique Gonzalez Pacheco, contemporary poet, born in Cuba, and well-traveled as well. The poem that I chose from his large catalogue of poems is one that is called So Close to Me. It's a short poem, so I will read the entire thing. It was written, of course, in Spanish, and it was translated by David Preston. So this is the translation of Pacheco's poem, So Close to Me, by David Preston. Lately, I have been dreaming the same dream over and over. Our lives are a poem in a lightless room. My morning appeared like the sunrise breaking through the clouds of darkness. You are so close to me. You are the freedom of sunlight. How I wish you could be with me all the time. We miss each other so many times in my crossroads, you and I. And yet, I can only see your smile in my dream. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a thought that so many of us have when we think about the people we love, the people who we have loved, the people who we have lost? So close to me. Does love ever go? It stays. Because I want to suggest that emotional intelligence is something that we can develop by opening ourselves to things that are not common in our lives. For instance, the idea of reading a poem in a foreign language. You are not distracted by the meanings, the definitions, the images that come out of your own language reality. Think about it. So I will read you Pacheco's poem in his language, Spanish. And I apologize in advance if my pronunciation is not the best. But again, we are opening up channels. Tan cerca de mí, últimamente he estado soñando el mismo sueño repetidas veces. Nuestras vidas son un poema de un cuarto sin luz. Mi mañana apareció a la salida del sol, que abre camino entre las nubes de la oscuridad. Tú estás así cerca de mí. Tú eres la libertad de la luz del sol. ¿Cómo deseo que puedas estar conmigo todo el tiempo? Nos perdemos tú y yo tantas veces en mi encrucijada, y aún yo solo puedo ver un sonrisa en mi sueño. Tan cerca de mí. And again, I apologize to the poet if I mangled the pronunciation. But reading the poem in Spanish gave me a sense of the feeling, the emotion of the poet when he says, tan cerca de mí, so close to me. Yes, so close to me. And with these videos, I am feeling so close to you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for supporting the work that this channel seeks to do. And if you like the content, please share and subscribe. Like us. That is the way that we will grow. I will come back again next week as we close out the year 2021 and as we move into the year 2022. I wish you a beautiful week ahead, a thoughtful week ahead, as you consider the things that you would like to see and do in the year 2022. I am Ruby Body saying peace out.